I'm still one of the top fighters. I just need activity, and I think evidence that they will definitely give me a few rounds. He's not someone that's gonna come and lie down. He'll give me a few rounds. So David put me in a good place from activity and work and time
to do it. And what did he do? Shame on you. Shame on you.
Allegations of drug use surface immediately after Whyte's defeat, framing the loss in controversy. From an analytical standpoint, such claims often emerge when shock results occur, but without hard evidence, they risk sounding like excuses. The narrative now shifts. Is this genuine concern or simply deflection from a brutal knockout?
And that's what he's done. So for me, I hate him because of that. Because I've seen drugs ruin a lot of people's life, loads of kids, and around the world it's a big problem. So for me, I hate him for that.
Attention then turns to analysts, who break down whether Whyte was simply outclassed on the night. Johnny Nelson strips away the noise, no drugs, no excuses, just defeat. Itauma was simply the better man on the night. The accusation from Whyte's camp contrasts sharply with Nelson's realism, reinforcing that the loss came from boxing skill, not controversy outside the ring.
He's done everything possible, so he got in there and was beaten by the better man. You know, did he lose or did he get beat? He got beat. So it's a case of how he deals with it.
From there, attention moved to promoters weighing in on the fight's meaning. Eddie Hearn focuses on reality. Whyte's age and inactivity left him vulnerable, but Itauma still had to finish the job. That is where the accusations collapse. Talent, speed, and precision decided this fight. Hearn's words put credit back where it belongs, on Moses, not on rumors of drug use.
Very sad, you know, I mean, I just watched it back. He really didn't land much clean. He is unbelievable, Moses. He's a brilliant talent, but Dillian, you know, when Dillian Whyte accepted this fight, I was very surprised. And I think probably we saw the reason why tonight. I think that's the end of the road.
With promoters backing Itauma's performance, fighters themselves stepped in to silence the excuses. Chisora calls it straight, no excuses, no talk of drugs, just a young fighter stepping up. His words dismantle Whyte's team's accusations, pointing out that if you enter the ring, you accept the outcome. Itauma's victory came from skill, not scandal, and that truth overshadows the noise.
And then you want to give us the bullshit, yeah? So, but what I'm going to say is, yeah, people always say, oh, I was not well, that's why I lost the fight. No, you know, you didn't lose the fight because the younger man that stepped up and then you got caught. The first show which killed him was a tempo show.
Here, Chisora highlights tactics, not drugs, as the difference. Whyte was caught by a clean southpaw shot, something he'd never truly faced. Itauma's timing and stance exposed a gap in Whyte's preparation. It reinforces the reality. Itauma's win was technical, not tainted, despite the accusations flying outside the ring.
Hey, listen, you go caught the head on the temple, and then after that it was a long night for him. I'm a bit sad because I didn't want him to go out like that.
And as the dust settled, concern shifted from excuses to Whyte's long-term future. Coldwell's reflection takes the debate away from drugs and straight to the reality of a fading career. He paints Whyte as a big character whose journey had finally reached the fight that defines the end. Against a 20-year-old like Moses Itauma, there was simply too much stacked against him. Age, inactivity, and reflexes that no longer held up. It all came crashing down in brutal fashion. This is why the "he was on drugs" narrative feels hollow. The truth is more painful. Whyte walked into the kind of fight veterans dread, against a hungry, explosive opponent with nothing to lose. Itauma capitalized on the moment, not through shortcuts or controversy, but through youth, speed, and timing. Coldwell's analysis reminds us that sometimes the fight itself tells the entire story, and excuses only mask an inevitable ending.
It's way too much for him, and it's going to be, you know, quite a nasty ending for him, a nasty ending to a career. I was worried for Dillian going into that this would be that fight, and it was. I mean, that you don't get as, you know, it can't be any worse than that to punctuate a career, to end a career.
Duke McKenzie frames it with blunt honesty. This was about money, not legacy. At 37, Whyte knew the risks of fighting an unbeaten powerhouse like Itauma, yet still took the bout. Why? Because a win would have been a huge scalp, but at minimum, the payday was secured. McKenzie's point dismantles the drug allegations even further. Whyte's motives weren't about chasing greatness, but protecting financial stability in the twilight of his career. For Itauma, though, the stakes were entirely different. Every punch he threw was about proving he belongs at the top and silencing doubts about his youth. The fight itself showed the contrast, one man cashing out, the other bursting in. The claim of drugs becomes irrelevant against this backdrop. Itauma didn't need a shortcut, he needed opportunity, and he seized it with emphatic finality.
When you look at your career at the end of your career, you'll look at your bank balance and say to yourself, you know what, it was worth it. Dillian Whyte can look at his bank balance and say, last night's fight was worth it. Did he do it for the money? He probably did. You know, Moses Itauma is a huge name, and it would have been a massive scalp to have had, but it was never going to be the case.
And while McKenzie highlighted the financial side, other insiders weighed in on the health rumors and post-fight aftermath. Buddy McGirt's reaction says it all. This is the first time he's even hearing about drug allegations. That silence from insiders highlights just how hollow Whyte's team's claims really are. For those who actually live ringside, the narrative wasn't about substances, but about recovery. Whyte was badly hurt down on the canvas, and then apologizing after the fight. Those details don't reflect scandal, they reflect defeat. McGirt's words underline that the accusations are more of an afterthought than a genuine concern. When experienced figures in boxing dismiss or sidestep such claims, it usually means they hold little credibility. The optics are clear. Itauma's win is being overshadowed by noise outside the ring, but analysts like McGirt remind fans that the fight itself already told the truth. The loss was conclusive, and no excuse can change that.
This is the first time me hearing it, you know what I mean? I didn't hear anything like that, so I really couldn't elaborate on that, to be honest with you.
Amir Khan shifts the spotlight back to performance, emphasizing the qualities that truly defined Itauma's victory: speed, power, and accuracy. In professional boxing, those three combined are lethal, and Itauma showcased all of them in devastating fashion. The quick finish wasn't luck, it was execution at the highest level. Khan expected Whyte's power to dictate the early rounds, but instead Itauma flipped the script, dominating from the start. That dynamic makes the drug narrative even weaker. Champions and former champions recognize talent when they see it, and Khan's verdict is clear. Moses Itauma is a legitimate threat in the heavyweight division. The accusations from Whyte's camp simply don't align with what happened inside the ropes. For fans, this analysis matters more, because it points to a fighter on the rise, not a controversy. Itauma didn't just win, he announced himself.
No one expected it to finish that quick.
Speed kills, as you know.
Speed kills, and he had but not only the speed, he had the power with that, and the accuracy was on point. I mean, I didn't think it was gonna. I thought it'd be the opposite, where Dillian might win the first couple of rounds with his power, but I think it just shows how strong Itauma is and how powerful he is. He's a big threat in heavy.
Frank Warren's words cut through the controversy. While Whyte's camp focuses on drug allegations, Warren frames Itauma's victory as history in the making. To call a 20-year-old a fighter of his generation is no small statement. It shows how seismic this win truly was. Every great heavyweight has a moment where the world takes notice, and Itauma just had his. That's why the accusations feel increasingly hollow. Legends are not made in whispers of scandal, but in dominant, career-defining wins. Warren projects Itauma onto a path toward the all-time greats, and this night could be remembered as the launch pad. Boxing has always thrived on narratives, but here, the story is clear. The shocking loss wasn't about substances, it was about a generational shift. Itauma proved that youth, power, and fearlessness can rewrite the script against fading veterans.
I think we're seeing history being made with him. I really do feel he's going to be a fighter of his generation and of the. I think in time, if he continues to do what he does, he will be up there with all the great heavyweights of all time.
And while Warren looked to the future, trainers analyzed Whyte's preparation and physical struggles leading into the fight. Mark Tibbs offers the kind of detail that exposes the weakness in Whyte's post-fight claims. He admits Whyte looked fit, but age and the grind of preparation were heavy burdens. Aches, pains, and recovery time all increase with years, and that's the reality Whyte carried into the ring. This explanation makes more sense than any talk of the Itauma being on drugs. Fighters at the twilight of their careers often look sharp at the weigh-in, but once the bell rings, reflexes and resistance tell the truth. Tibbs' observation highlights that Itauma didn't need unfair advantages. He simply faced a man whose body could no longer keep up for Whyte's team. It's easier to deflect, but Tibbs shows the hard truth. The loss was down to age, wear, and a fresher, hungrier opponent. Itauma exposed it with clinical precision.
He's that good. I thought Dillian shaped up well. I thought he was in fantastic nick. But when you're at your twilight years, and you're working on your weight, etc., it's taxing on yourself, and I'm pretty sure he had to make some.
Antonio Tarver provides a blunt assessment. Whyte didn't stand a chance. His recent knockouts had already signaled decline, and Itauma simply finished the story. This is why the drug accusations from Whyte's camp feel misplaced. The defeat was inevitable, given his condition and trajectory. Still, Tarver's point about Itauma's future is crucial. Beating a fading veteran is one thing, but true greatness comes from testing yourself against peers in their prime. Itauma's victory is a major milestone, but it must be followed by fights against credible younger heavyweights to solidify his rise. The accusations from Whyte's side serve only as noise in contrast to this clear path forward. Itauma didn't just win, he now carries the responsibility of proving his dominance isn't limited to older names. For fans, that's the real intrigue. Can he replicate this power against top contenders in their peak years?
Dillian Whyte came in here being knocked out a couple times, wanted to see could he land a punch on this young kid, but he didn't have a chance tonight. He got mowed over, and this is a big win for a young guy, but he got to continue to fight credible opponents, and he got to get tested. He got to fight a young fighter like himself and beat a credible opponent like that, not these old washed up fighters that he can only just look good against.
And with Tarver calling for tougher tests ahead, the conversation shifts toward what Itauma's shocking win really means for the heavyweight landscape. At this stage in the debate, the bigger picture becomes clear. Whyte's team may have cried foul with drug accusations, but across the boxing world, insiders are focused on Itauma's rise and what comes next. The "he was on drugs" line is already dissolving into the background, replaced by hard questions about Itauma's future opponents. One win, no matter how devastating, cannot define a career, but it can set the tone for what's expected. Itauma dismantled Whyte in shocking fashion, showcasing speed, accuracy, and fearlessness that captured headlines. But as Antonio Tarver highlighted in the previous clip, it's not enough to beat fading names. If Itauma is to move from height to heavyweight force, he must step into the ring with fighters closer to his own age and prime condition. That's where the real tests await. Whyte's accusations, while dramatic, serve more as a distraction than a real issue. In truth, Itauma's performance needs no excuses. It was the product of raw talent and sharp preparation. The boxing community has already begun shifting the conversation. Not was he clean, but how far can this young powerhouse actually go? And that's the question that now dominates the heavyweight landscape. With the excuses fading and attention on Itauma's next move, the stage is set for the final word on what this fight truly means.